See this, folks, how you doing? I'm going to tell you a ghost story, a true ghost story. Now, this ghost story, once again, takes place in a house. Now, there's a difference though. The people who lived in this house lived in the house for a fair while, a long time, and they got married and continued to live in the house, and they had a child and continued to live in the house, and they never had an issue. Never had an issue with nothing. That is, until they had their baby daughter. Their baby daughter, they were delighted with her. Absolutely over the moon, as you can just imagine. First child, only child. It was just the apple of their eye. The child had the pretty average. There was no real issues with the child as the years were growing between her being non-communicative in a verbal manner until she could actually verbally communicate. But things started to show. Once she began to talk, she got to about 3, and she began to talk of her friend. She had a friend called Lucy, who came to see her. Now, there was no Lucys in the house, there was no Aunt Lucy's, there was no YouTube. It was before there was phones. All before, well, there was phones, wasn't mobile phones. Before all that, she always talked about this child Lucy. So they're thinking about the TV shows, maybe she's watching. You brought Buck Moon and all the way back then, so. But, no. Nothing, they couldn't find any. But the parents just put it down to, she's child, imaginary friend. Now, if anybody's any kids here, and they start speaking about imaginary friends, for me, that's alarm bells. My child had started talking about imaginary friends, it would have been, okay, right, where's the nearest holy water depot? No. Anyway, she starts talking about Lucy's coming this year, and the mother's always hearing her playing with Lucy. Doesn't hear Lucy, hears the child communicating with herself, as it seems. Then the lady's niece comes to stay this day, and the spur room. The spur room is directly joined onto her daughter's room, and she spoke about. She came to the mother one day, and she says, "I always hear her in there talking to her friend, but I never ever see her friend. Always hear the two of them talking and laughing and joking away." And the mother went, "She's no friend there, it's just her, she's got an imaginary friend." And the niece went, "No, I can hear both of them talking, they're distinctively two different voices that I'm hearing speaking to each other." And so there's when you can't be hearing anybody else, there's nobody else in the house, she doesn't bother with anybody else, we don't let her out, it's too dangerous. But she was adamant she could hear another voice speaking with the child. So the mother went in one day and said to the wee girl, "What does Lucy look like?" And she said, "She has blonde hair, it's curly, it's down to her neck, she's very pretty and she's very nice and she's my friend." She said, okay. So she asked where Lucy lives, and she says she lives in the cupboard. And at this, the mother said her hair was standing on her arms. She's telling her this. Says she lives in the cupboard, and she comes out when I'm on my own, but when you're coming, you scare her away. And she says, the mother says, "That's very silly. Lucy's being silly. Why would she be scared of me for? What do I do? What would I do?" And she says she's just scared. She's scared of you, and she's scared of Daddy. She hides in the cupboards when you come. Mother said, "Okay." So the mother says, "The next time you're talking to Lucy, tell her I want to see her." So the mother goes out, and she's literally starting to get really concerned after her niece had said about hearing the voices. So the mother goes out and she's in the house. Now she's lived here for a long time and there's never been a thing, but she's starting to get a real mad feeling, a really, really mad feeling. Every time she goes into the room, she gets a real strange feeling. Even whenever the child is out with the father or whatever like that, she gets a real negative feeling in the room when the child's not there. When the child's there, it doesn't feel too bad, but the room just doesn't feel right no more. And she'd never had this feeling in the house prior to the child being born, and she's just dumbfounded as to what's going on. She's wondering, is it because the child has told me this? Is it starting this maybe make me paranoid? But she goes on. So it ends up this day, a week or so later, she hears the child shouting. She hears her daughter shouting and shouting and shouting in the bedroom and crying, and runs out of her room downstairs. She says, what's wrong with me? And she says, she was fighting with Lucy. And she says, right, why are you fighting with Lucy for? She says, and then she says to the child, now you know Lucy isn't there. She says, Lucy is there. She's not my friend no more. I told her I don't want to be her friend because she said bad things about you. And the mother says, she said bad things. Well, what did she say? And the child started coming off with all this stuff she couldn't know. She shouldn't know at such a young age. She just knew it was bad. So the mother's like, this started to really concern the mother. So the mother waits till the husband comes home, and she says to him, she explains, and he says he's probably hearing other kids out in the street, other teenagers or something, shouting bad words and stuff like that there, and that's where she's picking it up from. Or probably hearing on TV, some TV shows even back then, that had some foul language in them. So she had told the child, listen, that's bad words, you don't say things like that there, that's really, really not nice. Tell Lucy, you're not playing with Lucy no more, but don't be playing with Lucy no more. She's, the mother's got it in her head. Logically, she's going, this is just an imaginary friend, but deep inside, she's going, is there something up here? So that night, they go to bed, and the mother's lying sleeping. Now, but I probably should have told you, is this story is being told to me by the child growing up. And what she said happened here was terrifying. She said she went into her room and she was sleeping. Her mother put her to bed, and she was lying there sleeping, and Lucy came out of the cupboard. She said Lucy had blonde hair, came to her neck, always wore like a white, the way I imagine it is nearly like a Alice in Wonderland dress. Now that's probably not what it looked like, but that's what it just for some reason appeared to me in my head. That type of dress, old-fashioned, pretty old-fashioned, and the hair seemed to be old-fashioned in its description as well. And she came out to the wee girl, and she said to the wee girl, do you want to play? And the wee girl says, no, I'm not playing with you. You said bad things about my mummy. And she says, your mummy started calling her all these names, real bad stuff. And she says, I don't want to play with you no more. And she said she covered her ears, I don't want to play with you no more. And then she said Lucy went from a wee girl and morphed into a mist, a black mist. That black mist then went up and up, and she said she took her fingers out of her ears, and she could just hear Lucy talking in Lucy's voice, then Lucy talking in her voice, then Lucy talking in the mummy's voice, then Lucy talking in the daddy's voice, saying all these conversations that had went on in the house. And she grew up, went up and up and up until she became this huge black. She said it didn't even look human, whatever it was. She said she got up and she ran out of her room and ran into her mummy. Whenever she ran into her mummy, she said, Mummy, Lucy scared me. She came out of the cupboard and she tried to explain to her mummy what was happening. The mother was terrified. The mother was absolutely terrified. At this point, she had threw any rationale out the window, and she was just going, there's something clearly up here. As soon as the mother said, Lucy isn't real, she said, the doors started banging, the windows started thud, 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 thud. The whole house, she said it literally felt like the whole house was shaking. It was like somebody was hitting the floorboards with block hammers all around the house. And at the bottom of the bed, the wee girl said that she seen the mist just started to rise up at the bottom of the bed, and the same figure was there, coming. All the voices of everybody in the house were just being manifested all around the room, were just all being spoken louder and louder and louder and louder. She started shouting and praying and shouting and praying at it. She had holy water beside her bed, and she threw the holy water over towards it, and at that it dispersed. She says it was like smoke when you do that, and the smoke twists when the holy water went, and it twisted up, and it just shot right down with a merciful bang. That was early hours in the morning. The child says that the mother lifted her. The dad was awake. He was just shocked in the bed. He was just like a deer in the headlights. He couldn't even move. The wife was like, what do we do here? We need to get out of this house. They all got up. They got out of that house. They moved in with her mother. And they stayed with her mother. And they never moved back into the house again. They left the house, and that was it. They got somebody to go and pick up their important belongings and never went back near the house. Went to the priest, went everywhere to make sure there was nothing following the child. Went to psychics and all this stuff. Lucky enough, there was nothing following the child. Whatever it was must have been in the house. Whatever had happened when the child was born, it had activated, whatever, because they had never seen a thing. They had never seen nothing. up until the child was born, and that's when it started. That's whenever the whole thing started to develop. That's terrifying. It makes you think that you don't know what's in your house, or you don't know what is. Or it's like a ticking time bomb. Was it the cupboard? I don't know whether the cupboard was new. It was maybe something could have got second hand. I didn't even think to even ask there. That could quite possibly have been it. Well, some people buy second hand like items, and second hand items can have attachments. People could be particularly like jewelry and stuff like that. I'd imagine the jewelry, because whenever you imagine when jewelry is being bought for somebody, it's been bought with great emotion most times. For somebody who loves somebody, be it their mother, be it their wife, be it a fiance, particularly engagement rings, you think of the love and the devotion that's probably went into buying that ring. And then you think if that ring's being sold, the heartbreak, the heartache of leaving that ring, and then maybe that person going on and dying. You think of that energy attached to that, particularly if there's crystals in it. Crystals hold energy. Like, that isn't even just like something where you go, so to say. That's scientifically proven. They're already trying to learn how to program crystals like microchips to hold information. So crystals hold that type of, they hold memory. Would anything, you don't like to say that even ghosts, like sometimes there's a, like you'll have hauntings there, but they're just pretty much recordings of the past. Just been consistently replayed because it's recorded in the stone. That's what some theorists believe ghosts even are. So if you're buying objects, who's to say that's not? Sometimes things could be attached to them due to the amount of emotion that was gathered and put into that particular object when it was purchased and when it was passed on, particularly jewellery. So could there have been anything bought? Could there have been more? Maybe somebody moving into the house before, maybe they had bought it for their child, but it's no happy. God forbid, maybe something happened to the wee one, and the heartache, the heartbreak, and that been passed on. So that's why I'd be very reluctant to buy anything secondhand. It's nothing to do with thinking I'm too good for it at all. Like, I'd just be often really concerned about what energy circulates around it. What was the story behind, maybe if it is jewellery or if it is objects like that, what's the story behind it? Why did the person let it go? Particularly pawn shops are usually people who are at their wits' end. All that negative energy around them. They're parting with their most prized things. They're really hurt. They're in despair as they pass it on. Those energies been passed on and carried on, and maybe if that person dies, then what are you left with? Well, enough of my rambling on, but thanks for the story anyway, and I hope you enjoyed it. There was more to it. I tried to really rush through it there. I hope I didn't confuse anybody with anything, because it was a long story. But thanks for watching. Gar mille miagat. Keep sending in message. Keep sending in the stories. Gar mille miagat. Slán.